What if the frozen continent of Antarctica was once warm, green, and teeming with life? The official story says Antarctica has been buried under miles of ice for millions of years, a lifeless wasteland since long before human civilization existed. But ancient maps tell a different story. Maps created centuries before Antarctica was officially discovered. Maps that show the continent's coastline in remarkable detail. Maps that depict rivers, mountains, and ice-free land. These aren't crude sketches. They're sophisticated cartographic works showing geographic features that remained hidden under ice until the 20th century. Features we only confirmed with modern sonar and satellite imaging. How did ancient mapmakers chart a coastline no explorer had seen? How did they map mountains buried under 2 miles of ice? And why does their work match modern surveys with unsettling accuracy? The implications challenge everything we understand about ancient civilizations and Earth's climate history. Documents exist. The maps are real. Their accuracy has been verified by modern geologists and cartographers. But the questions they raise remain unanswered. Today, we're examining 10 ancient maps that depicted Antarctica without ice. Maps created long before the continent was officially discovered in 1820. Maps that suggest someone possessed geographic knowledge that shouldn't have existed. Fair warning, this evidence contradicts accepted timelines of human history and exploration. But the maps are genuine, the accuracy is undeniable, and the mystery demands investigation. Number 1. The Peary Race Map of 1513. This is where the mystery begins, and it's arguably the most famous and controversial ancient map in existence. In 1929, German theologian Gustav Adolf Deissmann made a discovery. He was cataloging manuscripts in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. Among forgotten documents, he found a gazelle skin parchment. It was a map, dated to 1513, signed by Ottoman Admiral Peary Rice. The map showed the Atlantic Ocean, the coasts of Europe, Africa, and South America. But there was something else. Something that shouldn't have been possible. The southern portion of the map displayed a landmass. The coastline matched the Queen Maud Land coast of Antarctica with remarkable precision. Here's the problem. Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, 307 years after this map was created. Peary Rice himself left notes on the map. He stated he compiled it from approximately 20 source maps, some dating back to the 4th century BC, some from the age of Alexander the Great. The map shows South America's coastline with stunning accuracy, details that Spanish conquistadors were still exploring in 1513, but the southern continent is what defies explanation. In 1960, Captain Arlington Mallory studied the map with cartographic experts. They compared it to modern surveys. The conclusion shocked them. The coastline matched Antarctica's actual geography, but not the Antarctica we know today. It matched the subglacial bedrock topography, the coastline hidden beneath thousands of feet of ice. In 1966, Professor Charles Hapgood of Keene College investigated further. He sent the map to the United States Air Force Cartographic Service. Lieutenant Colonel Harold Ohlmeyer responded. His letter confirmed the map's accuracy. He stated the geographic details suggested the original source maps were made before the ice sheets covered the continent. The seismic survey data matched the ancient map. Mountains, bays, and coastal features aligned with precision. Think about what this means. Someone mapped Antarctica when it was ice-free. Then that knowledge was preserved for thousands of years, copied from map to map, until Peary Rice compiled his version in 1513. The official explanation claims it's a misidentified South American coastline, or a coincidental matching pattern, but cartographers who analyze the projection mathematics disagree. The map uses sophisticated techniques, spherical trigonometry, coordinate systems that account for Earth's curvature, knowledge that was supposedly lost until the 18th century renaissance of navigation. So who made the original source maps? And when was Antarctica last ice-free enough to survey? Geological evidence suggests parts of Antarctica were ice-free until approximately 6,000 years ago. Some theories push that date even further back. The map exists. The accuracy is documented. The source materials are referenced by Piri Reis himself. But the implications remain unacknowledged by mainstream archaeology. This pattern would repeat. The Piri Reis map wasn't alone. Number 2. The Orontius Phineas map of 1531. 18 years after Piri Reis, another map appeared. This one showed the entire Antarctic continent. French cartographer Orontius Phineas created it. He was a respected mathematician and royal lecturer in Paris. His work was considered authoritative in the 16th century. The map displays Antarctica centered on the South Pole. The continent's shape, size, and position are remarkably accurate. But remember, Antarctica wouldn't be discovered for another 289 years. What makes this map extraordinary is the detail. It shows Antarctica roughly the same size and shape as modern maps. Mountain ranges are depicted in the interior. Rivers flow from the mountains to the sea. The coastline includes bays, inlets, and estuaries. No ice sheets are shown. The continent appears habitable and explored. Professor Hapgood analyzed this map in his book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings. He compared Phineas's Antarctica to modern seismic data of the subglacial topography. The correlations were striking. Mountain ranges appeared where seismic surveys later confirmed ranges existed beneath the ice. Coastlines matched the bedrock shore hidden under ice shelves. The map even shows what appears to be a channel, dividing the continent into two major landmasses. Modern research confirmed Antarctica is indeed two landmasses, East Antarctica and West Antarctica, connected by ice but separated at the bedrock level. Phineas couldn't have known this. No one in 1531 possessed this knowledge. So where did he get his source material? Like Piri Reis, Phineas stated he compiled his map from ancient sources, documents from the Library of Alexandria, maritime charts from Phoenician sailors, Greek geographic treatises. He was copying older maps, not exploring new territory. The same questions emerge. Who originally mapped this continent? How did they survey it so accurately? And why does every detail suggest it was mapped when ice-free? Critics claim the shape is coincidental, that Phineas was simply filling in theoretical southern land, a hypothetical continent, to balance the northern landmasses. But coincidence doesn't explain the accuracy. Theoretical land doesn't match modern seismic data. Random guessing doesn't produce correct mountain placements. The map shows knowledge, specific, detailed geographic knowledge, and that knowledge shouldn't exist in 1531. The pattern continues. More maps would surface, each adding to the mystery. Number 3. The Haji Ahmed map of 1559. This Turkish map takes the mystery further. It shows not just Antarctica, but a land bridge connecting it to South America. Haji Ahmed created the map in Constantinople. He was an accomplished cartographer with access to Ottoman archives filled with captured maps from across the known world. His map displays the Pacific Ocean, North America, South America, and Antarctica. The level of detail is extraordinary for the 16th century, but it's the southern continent that raises questions. Antarctica appears ice-free with clear coastlines, and there's something else. A narrow strip of land connecting South America's southern tip to Antarctica's northern peninsula. Modern geology confirms this land bridge once existed. During the last ice age, when sea levels were lower, such a connection was possible. The Drake Passage between South America and Antarctica is relatively shallow, but this was tens of thousands of years ago, long before recorded human history. How did a 16th century Turkish cartographer know about prehistoric geography? The map also shows the Bering Strait accurately, the narrow waterway separating Alaska from Siberia. Again, during ice ages, this was a land bridge, the route humans used to migrate to the Americas. Haji Ahmed's map depicts both bridges, suggesting his source materials dated to a time when these features existed. Dr. Hapgood studied this map extensively. He noted the mathematical projections used. The map employs a coordinate system centered on Egypt. an ancient cartographic technique suggesting very old source materials. The accuracy extends beyond Antarctica. The map shows California as a peninsula, not an island, a common error in 16th century maps. But earlier explorations had confirmed the correct geography. Haji Ahmed had access to accurate information. His Pacific coastline details match modern surveys. The Caribbean islands are positioned correctly. Even small Pacific island chains appear in accurate locations. This wasn't guesswork. This was compiled knowledge from sophisticated source maps. The Ottoman Empire controlled vast territories. They captured libraries and archives from conquered regions, Byzantine texts, Persian records, Egyptian documents. Haji Ahmed stated he used ancient charts, maps preserved from earlier civilizations, knowledge passed down through centuries. But mainstream historians dismiss these maps as fantasy, artistic interpretations with no basis in actual exploration. The evidence suggests otherwise. The accuracy is too consistent. The details too specific. The mathematical projections too sophisticated. Someone mapped Earth in incredible detail. Then that knowledge was preserved and copied for millennia. The question isn't whether these maps are accurate. Modern science confirms they are. The question is, who made the originals? And how far back does this knowledge go? Number 4. The Buache Map of 1737. French geographer Philippe Buache created something remarkable. A map showing Antarctica as two separate landmasses. Here's why that matters. The ice wasn't removed from large portions of Antarctica until the 1950s. Sophisticated seismic equipment confirmed what lay beneath. Two distinct landmasses connected by ice but divided at the bedrock level. Buache knew this in 1737, 200 years before modern confirmation. His map clearly shows an ice-free Antarctica divided by a waterway, East Antarctica and West Antarctica as separate islands, connected only by frozen water. Buache was no amateur. He was a member of the French Academy of Sciences, first royal geographer to the King of France. His work was rigorous and well documented. He stated explicitly that his map was based on ancient charts, sources he discovered in the French archives, materials dating back centuries, possibly millennia. The academic community acknowledged his work, but they couldn't explain his accuracy. Antarctica was still largely unknown in the 18th century. No expeditions had thoroughly explored the interior. No technology existed to see beneath the ice. Yet Buache's map shows the subglacial geography with precision. The channel between the landmasses appears exactly where seismic data later confirmed it exists. He also mapped the northern coastlines with remarkable detail, bays and peninsulas that wouldn't be officially charted until the 19th and 20th centuries. In his notes, Buache referenced even older maps, works from Greek geographers, Roman navigational charts, medieval Arab sources. He claimed these ancient mapmakers possessed knowledge of southern polar regions, knowledge that was lost to Europe during the Dark Ages. But preserved in certain archives, the French court took his work seriously. His maps were used for naval planning and diplomatic negotiations over territorial claims. But as centuries passed, his Antarctic claims were dismissed. Historians assumed he was speculating, filling in blank spaces with educated guesses. The 1950s changed that assessment. When seismic surveys revealed the subglacial topography, researchers noticed something. Buache's 200-year-old map matched the modern data. He hadn't guessed. He had copied from source materials that accurately depicted the reality beneath the ice. This forced an uncomfortable question. If Buache's sources were accurate, how old were they? And who created them? The maps keep coming, each one adding another piece to an impossible puzzle. Number 5. The Zeno Map of 1380. This Venetian map predates Columbus by over a century, and it shows parts of Antarctica that shouldn't have been known. Brothers Niccolo and Antonio Zeno created the map. They were Venetian navigators exploring the North Atlantic. Their map primarily focused on northern regions, Iceland, Greenland, and lands beyond. But the southern portion includes something unexpected, a landmass in the far south with accurate proportions, suggesting Antarctica. The Zeno brothers claimed they compiled their map from multiple sources: ancient charts acquired through trade with Arab merchants, Greek manuscripts from Byzantine collections, Norse exploration records. Medieval Venice was a hub of knowledge. The Republic controlled trade routes connecting Europe to the east. Venetian merchants had access to documents from across the known world. The Zeno map shows sophisticated cartographic knowledge, longitude and latitude concepts that weren't fully developed in 14th century Europe. The southern continent appears smaller than on later maps, but the positioning is correct, and certain coastal features match modern data. What's significant is the date: 1380, 440 years before Antarctica's official discovery. Maritime historians note something else. The Zeno map includes islands in the North Atlantic that disappeared, volcanic islands that existed during medieval times but later sank or eroded away. This suggests the map incorporated very old observational data, not contemporary exploration, but ancient records of geography that had changed over centuries. The same logic applies to Antarctica. If the map shows islands that no longer exist in the north, might it show a continent that's now hidden under ice in the south? The Zeno map was controversial even in its time. Some claimed the brothers fabricated their exploration stories, that the map was fiction designed to glorify their family name. But the accuracy of the northern sections has been verified. The islands, coastlines, and maritime routes are genuine, confirmable through historical records and archaeological evidence. If the northern portions are accurate, why assume the southern sections are fiction? The map circulated among Venetian maritime families. It was copied and referenced by later cartographers, including some who created the more famous Antarctic maps that followed. Venice held knowledge that others didn't. Their archives contained materials from the ancient world, documents rescued from Constantinople before its fall, texts from Arab scholars who preserved Greek and Roman learning. The Zeno brothers tapped into that repository of ancient geographic knowledge, and they found references to southern polar lands that officially didn't exist yet. The pattern is consistent. Mapmakers across different centuries and cultures, all depicting the same thing: an ice-free Antarctica, mapped with impossible accuracy. Coincidence becomes less believable with each example. Number 6. The King Jaime World Chart of 1424. This Portuguese map shows advanced geographic knowledge decades before the age of exploration began. Created for King Jaime of Aragon, the map displays the known world with remarkable accuracy. But it's the southern regions that challenge conventional history. Antarctica appears as a large landmass, ice-free and detailed. The coastline features bays and peninsulas that match modern surveys. The map includes Madagascar, which was only officially discovered by Europeans in the 1500s. It shows the correct proportions of Africa decades before Portuguese explorers fully charted the continent. Most striking is the Antarctic depiction. Mountains are indicated in the interior. Coastal features align with subglacial topography. King Jaime's cartographers had access to unique sources. The Portuguese were beginning their maritime expansion. They established relationships with Arab traders who possessed extensive navigational knowledge. Arab sailors had been crossing the Indian Ocean for centuries. They traded with East Africa, India, and Southeast Asia. Their charts were sophisticated and accurate. Portuguese explorers acquired these charts through trade and conquest. They gained access to geographic knowledge far beyond European experience. But even Arab charts shouldn't have included accurate Antarctic data. No medieval Arab expeditions reached the southern polar regions. So where did that knowledge originate? The answer appears in the map's annotations. References to ancient sources, Greek geographic texts, Phoenician maritime records, Egyptian astronomical charts. These civilizations existed thousands of years before King Jaime. If their knowledge included Antarctica, the timeline of human exploration must be reconsidered. The Portuguese guarded their maps carefully. Geographic knowledge was a state secret. Accurate charts provided military and economic advantages. When other European powers later created world maps, they referenced Portuguese sources. The knowledge spread, but the original sources remained mysterious. The King Jaime map was stored in royal archives. Only recently have historians fully analyzed it. Comparing it to modern data revealed the unsettling accuracy. Mountains appear where mountains exist beneath the ice. Coastlines curve where bedrock shores curve beneath ice shelves. Even the continent's overall shape and size are proportionally correct. Guesswork doesn't produce this level of accuracy. Artistic interpretation doesn't match seismic surveys by coincidence. Someone mapped Antarctica when it was visible, when its features could be observed and charted. Then that information was preserved and passed down through centuries. The Portuguese inherited this knowledge. They copied it onto their charts, and those charts influenced European cartography for generations. But the original mapmakers remain unknown. Their civilization lost to history. Only their maps survived. Number 7. The Glerianus map of 1510. Swiss scholar Henricus Glerianus created a world map 3 years before Piri Reis. His version also shows a southern continent with disturbing accuracy. Glerianus was a humanist scholar, a professor at the University of Basel. He studied ancient texts extensively, Greek manuscripts, Roman geographic works, and medieval Arab scholarship. His map represents his attempt to reconstruct ancient geographic knowledge, to compile what classical civilizations knew about Earth's geography. The southern polar region displays a large continent, labeled as Terra Australis, the unknown southern land. But it's not vague or speculative. The coastline has specific features, inlets, bays, and peninsulas drawn with precision. When compared to modern Antarctic maps, the correlations are obvious. Glerianus somehow accessed source material depicting the real continent. His work includes mathematical calculations, latitude and longitude grids, distance measurements between landmarks. This wasn't artistic fantasy. It was scientific cartography based on data. Glerianus referenced his sources in his writings. He cited Ptolemy extensively, the Greek geographer who lived in the 2nd century AD. Ptolemy's geographic works were considered the pinnacle of ancient knowledge. But even Ptolemy was compiling earlier sources. Eratosthenes, Hipparchus, and others who studied geography centuries before him. The chain of knowledge stretches back millennia, each generation copying from earlier sources, preserving information that originated in prehistory. Glerianus also noted mathematical anomalies. The ancient maps used projection techniques that shouldn't have existed, spherical calculations requiring advanced mathematics. The trigonometry necessary to create these projections wasn't rediscovered in Europe until the Renaissance. Yet ancient mapmakers employed these techniques routinely. This suggests a lost scientific tradition, a civilization with mathematical and astronomical knowledge comparable to the Renaissance. Existing thousands of years earlier, Glerianus's map was influential among European scholars. It was copied and referenced by later cartographers. His work legitimized the idea that ancient knowledge exceeded medieval European understanding. But as exploration expanded and Antarctica was officially discovered buried under ice, his map was dismissed. Scholars assumed he had invented the southern continent, filled empty space with imagination. Modern analysis proves otherwise. The accuracy couldn't be accidental. The mathematical sophistication couldn't be primitive guesswork. Glerianus compiled genuine ancient knowledge suggesting Antarctica was once mapped when ice-free and possibly inhabited. The evidence continues mounting, map after map showing the same impossible knowledge. Number 8. The Ibn Benzara map of 1587. This Turkish admiral created a world map that shows Antarctica connected to South America, but with a crucial difference. It depicts the continent mid-transition. Parts are ice-free, parts are glaciated, as if the map captured Antarctica during a climate shift, a period when ice sheets were forming but the continent wasn't fully covered yet. Ibn Benzara's map shows unprecedented detail. The Antarctic Peninsula extending toward South America, the Weddell Sea coastline, the Ross Ice Shelf region, all recognizable to modern researchers. But some areas show clear land. Others show notations suggesting ice or frozen conditions. The map seems to combine observations from different time periods. This makes sense if the source materials came from different eras. Earlier maps showing ice-free conditions, later maps showing glaciation beginning. Ibn Benzara compiled these sources, creating a composite that accidentally revealed Antarctica's climate history. Turkish archives in the 16th century were extensive. The Ottoman Empire controlled territories spanning 3 continents. They acquired libraries and collections from conquered peoples, Byzantine texts, Persian manuscripts, Egyptian papyri, Arab navigational charts, all flowing into Constantinople. Turkish cartographers had access to knowledge spanning millennia. Ibn Benzara utilized this repository to create his map. His notations reference sources from antiquity, Greek geographers from before the Common Era, Phoenician maritime records, even Indian astronomical texts. The Indian connection is significant. Ancient Indian texts reference southern polar lands, described as frozen regions beyond the known world. These texts date back thousands of years. If they accurately described Antarctic conditions, Indian navigators or their predecessors traveled far enough south to observe the continent. Ibn Benzara's map also shows accurate Pacific Ocean geography, island chains positioned correctly, coastlines matching modern surveys. The Marshall Islands appear. Polynesian island groups are indicated. Even Easter Island seems represented. How did 16th century Turkish cartographers know Pacific island positions? European explorers were still mapping those regions. The answer is consistent. Ancient source materials. Knowledge preserved from civilizations that explored more extensively than modern history acknowledges. The map shows technical sophistication too. The mathematical projections account for Earth's spherical nature. Distance calculations demonstrate understanding of geographic measurement. Ibn Benzara wasn't primitive. He was utilizing advanced scientific knowledge inherited from earlier civilizations. His map of Antarctica mid-glaciation is particularly valuable. It suggests the source materials spanned a long time period, centuries or millennia of observation condensed into one chart. This implies sustained contact with Antarctica. Not a single expedition, but repeated visits over extended time, enough to document climate changes and geographic transformations. That level of engagement with Antarctica contradicts everything we're told about ancient maritime capabilities. But the maps don't lie. The accuracy doesn't happen by accident. Number 9. The Ptolemy Map, Reconstructions from Ancient Sources. Claudius Ptolemy lived in Alexandria around 150 AD. His geographic works were considered definitive for over 1,000 years. But Ptolemy himself stated clearly, he was compiling earlier sources, synthesizing knowledge from previous geographers, creating an updated atlas based on ancient data. Medieval scholars possessed Ptolemy's texts. When they reconstructed his maps during the Renaissance, something appeared in the southern regions. A large continent labeled Terra Australis Incognita, the unknown southern land, but with specific geographic features. Not blank space, not vague coastlines, detailed cartography suggesting actual knowledge. Some reconstructions show Antarctica remarkably accurately. The continent's size, shape, and position match modern data. Critics claim medieval scholars invented these details, that Ptolemy never included such specificity. The southern continent was added during Renaissance copying, but the oldest surviving Ptolemy manuscripts include southern land references. The geographic descriptions mention frozen regions beyond Africa, lands in the far south described as uninhabitable due to extreme cold. Ptolemy cited his sources: Marinus of Tyre, Eratosthenes, Strabo. These earlier geographers had access to knowledge we've lost. Eratosthenes calculated Earth's circumference in the 3rd century BC. His measurement was remarkably accurate, within 2% of modern calculations. How did he achieve such precision? By accessing earlier astronomical and geographic data, knowledge preserved from even older civilizations. The chain extends backward, each generation referencing predecessors, until the origins disappear into prehistory. Ptolemy's southern continent wasn't speculation. He was synthesizing actual reports, descriptions from sailors who traveled farther south than official history records. Phoenician navigators circumnavigated Africa around 600 BC. Egyptian expeditions explored far south along the African coast. Greek merchants traveled the Indian Ocean extensively. These maritime civilizations possessed advanced navigational technology. They could determine latitude using astronomical observations. They created detailed sailing directions and coastal charts. If they sailed far enough south in the Atlantic or Indian Ocean, they could have encountered Antarctic waters, observed the northern coastlines, documented what they saw. That information fed back into the geographic knowledge pool, eventually reaching scholars like Ptolemy in Alexandria, the greatest library of the ancient world. When the library burned, countless texts were lost, but copies of important works survived. Ptolemy's geography was too valuable to lose completely. Medieval Arab scholars preserved it. They translated Greek texts into Arabic. They maintained the knowledge through Europe's Dark Ages. When Renaissance Europeans rediscovered Ptolemy, they found references to places they couldn't explain, including a southern polar continent described with specificity, suggesting actual knowledge. The reconstructed maps show that knowledge. Antarctica's basic shape and location, consistent with modern understanding. Ptolemy's work validates the other ancient maps. It provides context, a paper trail leading back to civilizations that explored more extensively than we're told. The evidence forms a pattern. Ancient knowledge of Antarctica was real, documented, and preserved across millennia. Number 10. The Mercator Map of 1569. Gerard Mercator was arguably the greatest cartographer of the 16th century. His projection technique revolutionized navigation and map-making. It's still used today. But his 1569 world map includes something extraordinary. A detailed depiction of Antarctica, showing 4 major rivers flowing from the interior to the coast. 4 massive rivers, draining mountain highlands, creating networks of tributaries, emptying into polar seas. This suggests a warm Antarctica with significant freshwater systems, a climate supporting liquid water flow, an ice-free continent with active hydrological cycles. Mercator labeled the continent Terra Australis. He indicated it was based on ancient sources and recent Portuguese explorations. But no Portuguese expedition had reached Antarctica by 1569. None were documented in official records. However, Portuguese maritime activities included classified operations. Exploratory missions kept secret for strategic reasons. Did Portuguese sailors reach Antarctic waters decades before the official discovery? Did they find evidence of the continent and report back through classified channels? Mercator had connections to Portuguese maritime authorities. He could have accessed classified charts, information not publicly released but shared among trusted cartographers. His map shows the 4 rivers in specific locations. When compared to modern subglacial surveys, those locations correspond to major bedrock valleys, ancient river systems now buried under ice. Seismic data confirms these valleys exist. They were formed by flowing water during warmer periods, exactly as Mercator depicted. How did he know? The only explanation is source materials. Ancient maps showing Antarctica when those rivers actively flowed. Mercator's technical skill makes this more significant. He understood cartographic accuracy. He developed mathematical projections to minimize distortion. He wasn't careless or speculative. If he included Antarctic rivers, he had reason to believe they existed. He had seen evidence convincing enough to stake his professional reputation. His map influenced cartography for centuries. Other mapmakers copied his Antarctic depiction. The 4 rivers appeared on world maps into the 18th century. Only when explorers finally reached Antarctica and found nothing but ice were these features dismissed as errors. But they weren't errors. They were accurate depictions of subglacial reality. Geography, hidden beneath thousands of feet of ice, but real nonetheless. Mercator's work represents the culmination of ancient geographic knowledge, the most accurate compilation of prehistoric exploration data, presented through Renaissance cartographic techniques. His map is the bridge, connecting ancient knowledge to modern discovery. proving that sophisticated geographic information existed long before conventional history acknowledges. The evidence is overwhelming. 10 maps spanning centuries, multiple civilizations, different cartographic traditions, all showing the same thing. Antarctica mapped in detail when ice-free. Knowledge preserved across millennia. Accuracy verified by modern science. 10 ancient maps, 10 examples of impossible knowledge, each showing Antarctica with accuracy that shouldn't exist. The Piri Reis map matching subglacial coastlines. The Orontius Phineas map depicting mountain ranges beneath the ice. The Philippe Boichet map showing two separated landmasses. The Mercator map revealing ancient river systems now buried forever. This isn't coincidence. This isn't artistic interpretation. This is documented, verifiable geographic knowledge. The pattern is undeniable. Ancient civilizations possessed sophisticated mapping capabilities. They explored regions official history claims were unknown. They surveyed Antarctica when it was ice-free. That knowledge was preserved, copied from map to map, passed through Greek, Roman, Arab, and European hands, until modern scholars dismissed it as fantasy. But the maps don't lie. Modern technology confirms their accuracy. Seismic surveys match ancient coastlines. Satellite imaging reveals mountains exactly where old maps indicated. The implications are staggering. If Antarctica was mapped when ice-free, human civilization is far older than we're told. Advanced maritime cultures existed during periods mainstream archaeology considers prehistoric. Either that or climate history is wrong. Antarctica was warm and accessible far more recently than current models suggest. Both possibilities challenge fundamental assumptions about human history, about climate science, about the capabilities of ancient peoples. The evidence has been available for decades. The maps exist in museums and archives. The comparisons to modern data have been published. Yet mainstream science largely ignores this information. The maps are acknowledged but not explained. Their accuracy admitted but not investigated. Why? Perhaps because accepting their validity requires rewriting history. Admitting ancient civilizations achieved things we didn't think possible. The establishment resists that conclusion. Careers are built on current historical models. Entire academic frameworks depend on accepted timelines. Evidence that contradicts those frameworks gets minimized, explained away, filed under anomalies not requiring further investigation. But the pattern is too consistent. Too many maps, too much accuracy, too many different sources, all depicting the same reality. Someone mapped Antarctica when it was visible, when rivers flowed and coastlines were accessible. That knowledge survived millennia, preserved by cultures that valued geographic understanding. The question isn't whether this happened. The evidence proves it did. The question is, who accomplished this? And what else did they achieve that's been forgotten? Ancient knowledge often exceeds modern assumptions. Technologies existed and were lost. Civilizations rose and fell, leaving only fragments. These maps are fragments, pieces of a larger puzzle, evidence of human achievement stretching back further than conventional timelines admit. The truth emerges slowly, through careful analysis, through comparing ancient texts to modern discoveries, through acknowledging evidence even when it contradicts accepted beliefs. These 10 maps represent that truth. Geographic knowledge preserved across time. Proof that human exploration and scientific achievement began earlier than we imagine. What you believe is your choice. The maps are real. Their accuracy is verified. The implications are yours to consider. But remember this: ancient peoples weren't primitive. They explored, they observed, they documented, and they preserved knowledge for future generations to rediscover. We're those future generations. The evidence waits in archives and museums. The comparisons to modern data speak for themselves. Stay curious. Question accepted narratives. Examine evidence objectively. The truth about human history is stranger and more impressive than we've been told. The maps prove it. The knowledge was real, and it's still there for anyone willing to look.